France and Spain, two of the better teams remaining in the World Cup, are on the same side of the bracket, Jon, which is quite exciting. It means that they could potentially meet each other in the semi-final. One question I have is, does Spain have any chance of beating France?
I think people have been a little bit undervaluing of Spain this World Cup, largely because I think it's been a World Cup of big players having big performances. So we've just seen Erling Haaland hit 7 goals. Lionel Messi has 7 goals. Someone else has 7 goals. Mbappe has 7 goals. So I think that a lot of the hype around the teams that people are excited about are the teams where they actually have players who are performing well.
Yeah.
Spain obviously have Lamine Yamal, but he hasn't been performing to the same level as some of the other big players this tournament, in part because he's coming back from injury. But I think what's really interesting about Spain is, despite the fact that they have these big players, when those big players don't perform, they still have a system which actually allows them to generate a lot of upside as well.
And if there's anyone I know who prefers a system over a star, it is you.
Well, I don't know if that's true necessarily, but I think it's really interesting because, you know, it's not simply the case that Spain cares about system and France cares about players, right? There's an overlap between those two things.
Yeah.
France still are able to produce scenarios in their structure, which is going to benefit Kylian Mbappe, for example. But I think if you consider it sort of a sliding scale between having the system to provide solutions for you and having your best players provide solutions, I think you can see France is towards the players providing solutions side of that scale, and Spain is probably towards the structures can provide solutions as well. Now, obviously, those solutions are provided for the players as well. And I just wanted to show a few examples of what that looked like against Austria in particular.
Show me an example, Jon. Where are we starting?
So let's start on the board. This is Austria in the white kits here. And the thing that we talked about a lot in the run-up to this game is that they are just a very compact team, not just compact in a vertical sense, but also laterally as well. And what we saw from Spain was actually using this to their advantage. So they used what we call double width on both sides. Double width just basically means that you have 2 players in the wide channel. So you've got Porro and Yamal on one side, Baena and Cucurella on the other. And what they're going to try and do with that is either generate opportunities, particularly for Lamine Yamal, who is their best player, but also actually pose these problems, create these tensions for the Austria team, because if the Austria team are baited out into the wide areas, then it's going to open out space in the middle as well. So this is not just about creating space for Lamine Yamal, it's also about actually if he's going to be doubled up on, or if teams are going to find ways of stopping him from having any upside, that's going to open out chances for teams elsewhere.
It's disrupting the way that Austria want to play, ultimately.
Absolutely. So let's have a look at a few sequences on the board. I've just shown the Austria structure here, so you can see that narrowness.
Yep.
This is their pressing unit really close together, so they're going to block out any potential central progression. And so you can see the Spain have got this double width on both sides, and they're going to try and use that to generate chances, particularly for Lamine Yamal, but also for other players as well. So here's a nice example of that. We've got Kubasi on the ball, carrying it forward, and you can see that the 2 Austria players have been drawn out and opened out that space in the middle there. Now, you would expect one of the Spain players to be in that space, usually, probably Dani Olmo, for example, but he's not there. And actually what this means is that Porro sees that space and thinks, actually, I can access that space. It's going to do a couple of things. Because if I go into that area, then I'm going to keep the Austria player narrow, and that's going to open out a passing lane into Yamal right up against the fullback. And obviously if he can take a nice touch here, what you've done is you've isolated him against that fullback. That's the sort of scenario that he absolutely loves. It's going to be very productive of chances, maybe, if he can pull that off well. Actually, he doesn't manage to do that. He takes a pretty poor touch. But actually, again, because Porro has got into that inside channel now, you can see those other tensions that are being created. And you can see the 2 Austria players are getting drawn out here. That's going to open out space in between the lines. And normally you might expect to see a Spain player occupying that space, but in this instance, the players are all on the other side of the pitch. And what actually happens here is that Porro sees that space and thinks, I can actually access that space, occupy it. It's going to do a couple of things. On the one hand, that's going to drag his marker across with him. And what that will do actually is open out that passing lane directly to Lamine Yamal. So you can see if he receives this ball on the turn quite nicely, then it's going to pull Konrad Lima in towards him. He's going to be isolated against Lima. He's brilliant in the dribble, so he can go around him, and there's a huge amount of space for him to attack. So what this move does is it actually gives really nice access to your best player in the kind of scenario where he's going to cause lots of problems.
Sounds dangerous, Jon.
Sounds really dangerous, yeah, but actually in this instance, he doesn't take a very good first touch, and he actually slows down, so you can see the Austria winger is able to catch up with him. Now, in this scenario, Konrad Laimer is still being put under a huge amount of pressure, because we can see Porro has recognised that he can force a tension here, as we've talked about them before, and he's going to run into that channel between the fullback and the centre-back, and Konrad Laimer then has this tension between, if Lamine Yamal gets down the line, I'm going to have to cut him off, but I also need to worry about this player running through in behind as well. So you can see that tension is created there.
Yeah.
So yes, the ideal is to get Lamine Yamal running down the wing against his fullback. If it doesn't come off, you've still got these other advantages that you're finding elsewhere. But these aren't the only options that are available. There's actually a third option, which is the one that Lamine Yamal actually ends up taking, because he cuts inside the winger. And as you can see, because the Austria players are worried about that direct attack from Yamal, what ends up happening is that they open out this space in the middle now for Pedri. So he has the option of finding Pedri in space, and this isn't dangerous just because you've got Pedri in space. Actually, as you can see, because Dani Olmo has cut inside, pulling his player with him, you get really nice access to the other side as well. So in all of these situations, what you're going to start seeing is Spain just having loads of different advantages that they can create across the pitch. Yes, they're going to generate chances for Lamine Yamal, but they're also going to, we've already seen, potential dangerous chance for Porro in behind, potential dangerous chance through Cucurella on the far side as well.
So in summary, what you're saying is that Austria like to play more narrowly, Spain are using width, they're drawing Austrian players out, and as a result of that, they're creating dangerous scenarios in all sorts of different areas of the pitch.
Yeah, absolutely. But you may remember that you originally asked me about whether or not Spain would cause problems to France.
I did, I've been waiting for you to...
And obviously France aren't going to approach the game the same way that Austria did. But
no.
I think the thing to take away from this is that Spain will have a system that is designed to take their opponent apart on the basis of the way that their opponent play. And I think, again, as we said at the very beginning, yes, this is designed to get the most out of their best players. But if their best players aren't playing particularly well, or if they don't get into favourable situations, that doesn't mean that they're not going to win the game. It actually means that maybe these other opportunities are going to open out for other players across the pitch as well. So in that respect, the way that Spain play actually can often feel quite underwhelming, because it doesn't feel as though there's one player who's constantly getting all of these chances.
There's
necessarily.
no focal point.
Yeah, there's no focal point. But what it actually does do is it pushes those advantages across the rest of the pitch to the rest of the players as well. With France, you get the impression that it's like, if Michael Olise and Kylian Mbappe get on the same wavelength a few times, that can be enough to win a game. But with Spain, I think what you see is them just chipping away. In this game, none of the players really stood out in an incredible sense in the way that we've seen a lot of other players do for other teams. Actually, the system just chips away, 3-0, you're through to the next round, and I think that's what we'll get from Spain.
So they can beat France?
They can beat France, and if they do beat France, then they're going to have to beat Portugal to be able to beat France in the first place. They will do it by using all 11 players and by generating as much upside for those 11 players as they can. Yes, it may be that Yamal has a really fantastic game against them, but if he doesn't, it's not that bad, because the rest of the players are going to be able to chip in along with him. And that's what makes Spain so different from all of the other favourites in this tournament, and to an extent, I think that's what makes them quite fun to watch.
If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. The Athletic is home to some of the world's best sports journalists, including David Ornstein, Amy Lawrence and James Horncastle. With the latest transfer news and insights on every Premier League story that matters, theathletic.com puts you inside football